Welcome to the March 22nd edition of Black Authors Matter TV. We're excited that you tuned in, and we're very excited about what we have in store for this evening. I'm Gwen Richardson. I'm your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everybody.
And we have an amazing lineup again tonight. We always have an amazing lineup, if I should say so myself. So I was just telling Rhonda before we went on, there are a lot of Black people with a lot of accomplishments. It's just, it just is, it's incredible. And we need to see more of them at other places other than this show. But we're happy to bring them to you every week on Black Authors Matter TV. Before we bring on our first guest, I have a few announcements. Our Black Authors Matter TV Awards voting process is in full gear, and we've received over 1,000 ballots since the voting started. So you all are really... Oh, you voted?
I did, and I'm going to vote again tomorrow.
I voted once, and I'm going to vote again before. I probably will vote for my second runners up in each category on the second ballot, but I voted for on the first ballot. But you all are really voting, so that's really great, and we're excited about bringing you the finalists on April 5th. Also, the National Black Book Festival early bird registration for authors who want to participate this year at our in-person event after being only virtual because of COVID. We are excited about it, but we expect to sell out of space early this year. So the early bird rate ends March 31st, the same day that the voting ends for the Black Authors Matter TV. So just keep both of those events in mind for March 31st. Early registration ends for the festival for authors, and the Black Authors Matter TV Awards voting ends on March 31st. So keep those dates in mind so you don't miss the deadlines. Then we have the Jerry Pinkney Children's Book Awards, and we're getting a lot of children's book submissions for that. We're very excited about that award because there are thousands and thousands of African-American children's authors who don't get any recognition. They're just out there, but they're selling their books, they're meeting people, they're meeting needs, but they're not getting the recognition. So this is going to be a really great celebration of authors. So before we bring on our first guest, I have one book to give away tonight. It is a hardcover book. It's called Liberty, and it is by, what's the author's name? Oh, Caitlin Greenidge. I wanted to make sure I said it right. It is historical fiction, and it's hardcover. And the trivia question to win this book is, the main character, whose name is Liberty, is a freeborn Black girl in the post-Reconstruction era who lived in what New York City borough? So there are 5 boroughs in New York City. The first person to get the answer correct wins the book. So, and we're also going to be giving away 3 copies for our kickback. So let me tell our lineup first. Our first guest is Dr. Terri Major-Kincade. She's a neonatologist, a pediatrician, and an author. So she's our first guest. Our second guest is Dr. Dana R. Jones-Meggett. She's an inspirational poet and author. And then for the second half of the show, we have our book club kickback. It's something we periodically do. And this week, we try to do them once a quarter. So this time our guest is Rhonda Tate-Billingsley. Her new book is called Miss Pearly's Girls, and we'll have book clubs on screen discussing the book, and we will be giving away 3 autographed copies of the book at the end of the discussion. Anybody can win the book. It doesn't have to be one of the book club members. The way we do it, we ask the 3 trivia questions, and Rhonda will be looking at not only the Zoom chat, but she'll also be looking online. Whoever answers the questions first will win the autographed copies of the book. Oh, and here's the book that we'll be discussing on the second half of the show.
We already got an answer to the trivia question. Is it Brooklyn?
Okay, for Liberty, it is Brooklyn. So,
all right, Gwendolyn Hayes was the first person to get the answer.
Who won?
Gwendolyn Hayes.
Oh, Gwendolyn Hayes. Okay. Okay, Gwendolyn Hayes. Let me put it on here. Okay, Gwendolyn, direct message your address. I'm not sure. I think you want something before, but direct message your address on the National Black Book Festival Facebook page so we can send you your book. Congratulations. So we're going to be bringing on our first guest, Dr. Terri Major-Kincade. And she is a neonatologist and a pediatrician and an author. And we're excited to have her on the show with all of her accomplishments. And the way that she got into neonatology is interesting. I'll let her tell the story about how her interest, because a lot of times it's good to hear what motivated people to go into certain fields. So without further ado, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. How are you guys doing tonight?
Wonderful, and thank you for being here.
Now, where are you joining us from?
I am in Houston, Texas today. I'm usually somewhere different every day, but I'm in Houston today.
Right from Gwen.
Yeah, what part of Houston are you in? I live in Houston.
Oh, you really?
Okay.
I'm right near TCH. I live in Dallas, but I'm working in Houston for the year at TCH. At Texas Children's.
Okay, Texas Children's. Okay, so you're in the medical center, or is it downtown? It's Texas. Okay, medical center. Okay, I'm not near that, but I am in Houston. So yeah, Houston is big. Yeah, Texas is big.
Houston
People
is
don't
humongous.
really realize how big they both are. It's just, but they're both big. So
Yeah.
anyway, tell our audience how you got, what made you interested in being a neonatologist. You put it in your bio,
Sure.
but I'd like you to say it in your words.
Sure, it's my favorite story to tell. So for those of you guys who don't know, a neonatologist is a pediatrician that takes mostly care of premature babies or any baby that's sick after birth that has to go to the ICU nursery. So sometimes people just think preemie, like a little 1 or 2 pound baby, but really any baby that has a problem right after delivery can come to the ICU nursery. And for me, my sister was born in 1968. She weighed less than 2 pounds. She was not supposed to survive. She was born a couple of years after President Kennedy lost his son to prematurity because we didn't have ICU nurseries yet. So as a result of his son dying, the United States put a lot of money into developing ICU nurseries. So my sister was born a couple of years later and she benefited from that. And my parents would always tell this story about how she could fit in their hand and how when she came home, she was sleeping in a shoebox. And I was just fascinated about a baby that could fit in your hand, a baby that had been in a plastic box in the hospital. So as I got older, I learned that those doctors were called neonatologists. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to be the kind of doctor that takes care of the babies that fit in your hand or were in the plastic boxes. So I say my sister was my first patient.
when you decided, okay, yeah, you might have heard of it, but you said, okay, now this is where I'm going. This is the career that I'm pursuing.
Great question. Actually, I decided that right in first grade, if you actually, those little books we had to write in first grade, the ones you could made from fabric. If you actually look in there, it said, when I grow up, I want to be a pediatrician or a kindergarten teacher because I love babies. So I knew I wanted to either work with the babies in kindergarten or be a baby doctor. And then when I got older, I learned that the pediatricians that just took care of the preemies were called neonatologists. So by the time I got to middle school, I knew. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to ask, how old were you when your sister was born?
Oh, well, my sister and I are only 10 months apart because she was born 2 months early. So we're the same age.
Wow.
2 months of the year.
Wow.
Yeah.
You can call yourselves twins.
That's what I always say. Like, and then when I got older, I'm like, Mom, why are we only 2 months apart? Like, what's up with that? And she's like, girl, your sister was premature. Like, what? And so that's when we start talking about like how that happened. So she was born in July, but she was due in October, and my birthday's in October.
So boy, because sometimes, women have these tales that their husbands didn't want to adhere to what the doctor said about sex after you give birth.
Got pregnant like a few months after they brought the baby home from the
Yep.
hospital.
Yeah, there are people that their children are less than a year apart. So
So it's not quite that, because she was actually, we would have been exactly a year
A year
apart, but she
apart,
was
right.
born early.
wow.
Yeah, but she doesn't have any problems. No
I have-
problems at all.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
amazing, actually.
It's actually,
I have
she's a
to
miracle.
I have to ask Dr. Terri, because I see you have your soror in here who's giving you all kinds of shout outs.
Oh, I can't see it.
It's a major. She said, "This is my big sister and soror."
Oh, it's Bridget Major. That's who we're talking about. That's my baby sister.
That's your sister. That's awesome.
Boy,
She usually pops up and says,
wow.
yes, she's talking about me. I'm the inspiration. I'm the reason why.
Oh, that is so
She's
sweet.
the reason why she's my favorite preemie. So
Well, that is amazing. So since you grew up so close in age, I'm guessing you did kind of live life as twins. You know, you went to school together. Did you go to college together as well?
that's such a great question. I always tell, we're really, really close, but she was more adventurous than me. Like I always tell people, she made the cheerleading squad. I didn't. I still like haven't gotten over it. She went to Southern. I went to Prairie View. Most of my family members went to Southern. So I went to Prairie View, and she's an accountant. And then I did pre-med. So, but yeah, we're very close. Most of the time when people see us, they think we're twins, but she's a little shorter than me. So I do have the height. I have the height on.
You're the oldest and the tallest. You're the oldest and the tallest.
Yeah, I'm the oldest and the tallest. Because I think,
Oh, Stephen
well, I think she usually
Kincaid.
goes she's 5'1". Oh, that's my
Okay.
husband.
Okay. He asked the question, why does it have to be the husband's fault? Because Stephen, since you've never given birth, I can tell you,
Yeah,
the woman is not
don't
raring to go that quickly. That's what,
let him do it. He's gonna try to derail us.
and I have a husband. I know this story. So anyway, that's
Exactly.
And libido was up there. So
Tell them worry about our kids. Our kids are 3 years apart, so we good.
oh,
We're
okay.
good.
That's fun. But that was a good question. You know, men might want to know, but having never given birth,
Yeah.
you know, that's you know. So anyway, but that's sweet. Let's see who else is on. What is?
now, real quick. Now, what sorority are you?
I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Okay, well, we'll keep you on the show.
I'm not
No,
Greek.
there's only one, but I didn't want y'all to turn off my camera and stuff. So
No,
okay.
I'm not
I'm a
Greek.
member of the
So I
Divine
don't have a
Nine.
favorite. I'm not. I'm neutral. I'm a neutral party. I'm not gonna do pledge. I didn't want to pledge. So I love all people, and my daughter's
Yes.
a Zeta. I have a niece that's a Delta, and I have a
Yes.
niece that's an AKA, and I have a niece that's a Sigma Gamma Rho. So I have it all.
It's all Divine Nine.
Well, blue and white run strong in my family, as you can
I
see from.
love it.
But no, I asked that question really for a reason, because a lot of people may not realize that the Divine Nine is very, very involved with the March of Dimes.
Yes.
And that we actually support prematurity awareness. You know,
Yes.
it has an entire program.
Yes.
Stork's Nest, where we help mothers, before and after they give birth, and then with the March of Dimes, we help to raise money for prematurity awareness.
Yes.
I'm sure that this is that winds up being a very busy time for you as well.
It does, and I'm a huge fan of the Stork's Nest and all the work that Zeta Phi Beta does, because it's actually incorporated into the work you do as a chapter. So, but you're right, all the Divine Nine usually are big supporters of March of Dimes. And, while we're talking to your listeners, I would just shout out to those Black women out there who are listening, that just a reminder that Black women are 2 to 3 times more likely to have a baby that's premature, even if we get prenatal care, even if we do everything right, even if we have insurance. So we have a lot of work to do. We are 2 to 3 times more likely to have a baby that is born preterm in the United States of America. So it's something I'm really, really passionate about. I was inspired by my sister, but in the NICU, my goal is every time I meet a family, I want to help the family through the journey, but I'm always thinking, what could I have done to prevent this family from having to have this experience? So that's why I like the March of Dimes so much, because I feel like it takes me at least out of the hospital, meeting families when they're doing the prenatal care, when they're doing just the considering having a baby, and helping women manage stress, mental health, get resources. Because I want to, sometimes I meet people in the ICU nursery and they go, "You're so awesome. I hope I get to meet you with my next baby." I'm like, "Girl, no, we don't want to have another preview." Like, no, we are not.
You don't want to have another baby that has challenges.
That has to come to the ICU nursery. But
right.
yeah, I'm very, March of Dimes is something I'm very passionate about. I do a lot of education for them. And I've actually done a couple of things with the Zetas too. So it's all together, one big sister circle, making sure we're all healthy moms and having healthy babies.
Amen. Amen to that.
Now, do you know why that is? Have there been studies that have come up with the causal
right? So
why that is, when all the other factors seem to be in line?
So there are tons of studies. We probably need a whole nother Facebook Live, but I'll say a couple of things. One, so obviously some is related to access to healthcare, having good prenatal care, making sure we're in the best health we can be prior to getting pregnancy. So managing our overall health, managing our blood pressure, managing our weight, diabetes. But my passion is, even if we're doing those things, Black women with a college degree are 2 times more likely. And that's related largely to chronic stress. There's a lot of data related to quality of care we receive in the hospital. So I always use Serena. She had insurance. She was in great shape. She developed complications after pregnancy and almost died because her healthcare team did not listen to her. So often we find ourselves in situations where even when we recognize something is wrong, for whatever reason, the healthcare system does not see us the way they may see other patients, and therefore don't follow the same standard of care. So that's a big passion of mine, to empower families, managing our chronic stress. Strong Black women, yes, we are, but we're human, and we have to make safe spaces for ourselves. It's hard being strong all the time, and being strong all the time can contribute to us having preterm labor and other complications. So it's multifactorial. We do know that community partners improve outcomes for us. Having providers that look like us improve outcomes for us. Having sisters who walk through that journey improve outcomes for us. So really just trying to find a way to marry that with the healthcare system so that we all can have great health outcomes. So
I am so glad that you touched on the strong Black woman piece of it, because I believe I'm a firm believer that we cause ourselves a lot of stress because we try to wear that badge of being a strong Black woman, and we don't even give ourselves the safety to see that we're hurting or that we're stressed, because we feel like we always have to be strong. We forget how many other parts of our lives that spills into. For instance, having a baby.
It's so true. And there's a ton of data about chronic stress and how the stress that we carry actually just gets remodeled in our DNA and affects our future pregnancies. So I'm real big on, I loved Black Panther and I love Wakanda forever, but we don't live in Wakanda. We live in here. You know, they didn't have preterm birth over there. People weren't dying in pregnancy, but guess what? We have to take care of ourselves and really, really champion our mental health and say time out and find safe spaces to share that with each other.
Absolutely. Thank you for touching on that. And I did want to also touch on your book. Because we don't go past before.
I'm so excited because we already talked about the NICU. And so I just have to tell you guys, so this book, you guys, has been a dream in my heart for almost 15 years. It's called Princess Visits the NICU. And the reason why I wanted to write the book is we talked a lot about premature babies in the ICU nursery. Well, a lot of times siblings cannot visit. And a lot of times when those babies get sick, one of the regrets that parents have is, I know you guys did everything you could for my child. I know my baby didn't survive, but my regret is their big sister didn't get to meet him. Their big brother didn't get to meet him. And I had a mom actually tell me at a funeral, she had a daughter that was 3, her baby had died Christmas Day. And she said, you know, Dr. Terri, you guys did everything you could do for my son. I know he had an infection and it was nothing you could do. She said, but my only regret is that my daughter did not get to meet her brother until he had already passed. And she said, you guys have got to do something different to kind of allow those siblings to meet their brothers and sisters. So in that ICU nursery, we started something called Sibling Sunday. So from 4 to 6, if you had a child that was 3 or older who had gotten their shots and didn't have fever, now this was before COVID, you could come in between 4 to 6 and you could at least see your sibling. And now a lot of our nurseries have the cameras and you can do FaceTime. But for me, I wanted to write a book about what it would be like if a big sister came to the NICU. She got to meet the doctor. She got to walk through the nursery, or brother, wash their hands, see the plastic boxes. We explain about the oxygen. We explain about the feeding tube, and just kind of see, this is where your brother is, and this is why while he's here. The other thing I wanted to do is make sure we had more representation in books. So one, there are books about I want to be a pediatrician. I haven't really found a book about I want to be a neonatologist or a preemie baby doctor. And I can tell you, I can count on one hand where I've seen books with physicians that look like me. So I knew I wanted to be a preemie doctor. But like I said, my parents kind of inspired that. It wasn't until I got to medical school that I actually saw a Black physician. So even at Prairie View, where they were like, yes, you can be a doctor, I still had never seen a Black doctor when I went to medical school in 90, I was there from 89 to 94. So I wanted to do 3 things with this book. One, introduce anybody who's a kid that's interested in science and medicine and pediatrics, just about what a preemie baby doctor does. I wanted children to see reflections of doctors that look like them, families that may look like them. And anybody that was a preemie, there are a lot of people who were preemie, but they wonder about, well, why was I in that plastic box? Or what was going on when my parents took me there? So like I dedicated this book to all former preemies. So I have a lot of parents writing me, telling me the kid wants to read the book every night and the kid wants to see the picture of them in the incubator. So it's serving 3 purposes. So I'm super excited. And I got a color book. I got to color Dr. Terri yesterday. Y'all can't tell me nothing now because I got to color myself. Like, okay, I can retire. I colored myself. Yes, my self-care yesterday was coloring me. So it's just been a really, really fun project, and just talking to kids, even if you have never been in the NICU, it's just a great story about a family that has to deal with something unexpected, and just it's more of a discovery book written for the level of a child, you know, not any heavy stuff, but just general stuff about what to expect when things change and if your sibling may be sick. But even if you're not in the NICU environment, just learning about science, medicine, pediatrics, and just kind of inspiring kids who may have not have thought about this type of career, if that's something they want to do, especially since Black women are, at least in this country, we are affected the most by prematurity and adverse outcomes. So
what's the age group for the book? The targeted age?
The age group is 5 and up.
Okay.
5 and up. To read it on their own. But most of my, a couple of people have kids who are 3 now, whose kids
so they're reading to them.
They're reading to them, and the kids want them to read it every night. But to read it on their own is 5 and up.
The books are available now?
Yes, ma'am. So the books are available now. They're on Amazon, the hardback, paperback, and coloring book. If you actually want a signed copy, which I've been surprised at how many people wanted signed copies, then those are on my website.
Okay, which
so,
is?
You can get them from Amazon or autograph copy directly from Dr. Terri, MD.
Okay. So it's Dr. Terri, like on the screen, and then MD, but not the period. So her website is Dr. Terri, MD with no periods. So
you got it.
.com.
DrTerrimD.com. DrTerrimD.com.
Okay, now we have a comment from Gwendolyn Hayes.
Hey, Gwendolyn Hayes.
And she said something I think would be awesome, and I'd love to connect with you on it. She said, she was talking about your book. She said, that's great. She said that it would be great to include this book with our donations to the NICU we support here in Philly.
Girl, let's do it.
As you know,
feel like
Zeta's
every
going to be in Philadelphia in July.
Oh my gosh, we have to do it. We have to do it, Rhonda. We have to do it, Rhonda England, because my dream is that a copy of this book is in the waiting room of every NICU. That's like my dream.
Yeah, amazing.
Okay.
So I'm gonna try to link you guys up after the show. So
Okay, that would be great. That would
Yeah.
be great. That would be fantastic.
Now,
But
one
no,
of our
Go ahead.
viewers asked Lydia, she watches the show nearly every week, and she wants to know, can a cord around the neck be avoided for
Oh, Lydia, that's such a good question. And I have to say, Lydia, I've been a neonatologist for 20 years now, and that cords around the neck are the things that haunt me the most because they just happen. And there's actually no way for us to predict how that's going to happen, when that's going to happen. But it's a question families always have. Is there anything we could have done to prevent this? And currently, there's nothing in medicine that allows us to predict when that will happen or how to prevent it. And it's those are some of the saddest cases I've taken care of in my whole career as a neonatologist. Thank you for your question. Right now, we don't really know any way to prevent that or even predict who's going to possibly have that complication.
Oh, that's very sad.
Yeah.
Before we end, because I know we only have a few minutes left, I also wanted to ask you about full circle moments.
Oh, yes. Okay, thank you, Rhonda. Thank you. So I shared that we have the Big Sis Visits to NICU, and I wanted our readers to know that April 15th, I have another book coming out called Full Circle Moments. And the subtitle is What 20 Years in Neonatology Taught Me About Life, Love, and Loss. And this book is 20 reflections that I've learned from parents in the NICU, babies in the NICU, nurses, social work, everyone who has imprinted me along my journey, the lessons that I've taken from the children that have inspired me. So, for example, for premature babies, what I've learned from them is just breathe. Because we may be talking to you about all the things that may go wrong and all the things to worry about. The baby's like, look, girl, I'm 2 pounds. I gotta breathe to get through the day. I will worry about the other stuff, but for today, I need to breathe. So just learning to exhale. So I just kind of started at the beginning of my career being inspired by my sister, go through my first death, things I've learned from the parents, what parents have taught me about self-care. In this field, it's a hard field, and then my decision to change careers. So I mentioned to you, Gwen, I'm in Houston this year. I'm doing a 1-year training in pediatric hospice to learn how to take care of bigger kids who may have challenges and who may not survive. So I've done neonatal hospice for a while and neonatal palliative care, but this year I'm focusing on pediatric hospice. So I have a chapter in here about that and a little dedication to just families. So full circle moments, how I feel like my whole journey, just being inspired by my sister, and just what a blessing it is to meet families in the NICU every day and be reminded of how precious life is, no matter if we have it for minutes, hours, days, years, that every moment is precious. And we all have the breath of life in us right now. And we need to make sure we manifest that and celebrate that.
Absolutely. Now, that book can also be found on Amazon.
It'll be available on Amazon. It's coming out April 10th, and it'll also be on my website. This is my advanced copy. I'm doing the final proof.
Okay. I know how that feels to have that advanced copy in your hands.
We need.
I know my husband was reading it, said he was like, "Oh, you put everything in here. Don't tell everything." So maybe some secrets in there I wasn't supposed to tell. I have a little chapter about like balancing marriage and medicine. So y'all might find secrets if y'all get the book.
Okay. Now, is your husband a physician?
Girl, no. I mean, shout out there to anybody who is married to a physician, but somebody in the family needs to be normal. So I am proud to say he is not. His degree is in criminal justice. He's a retired correctional officer and is currently doing real estate. So, but shout out to the people that's married. If you're a physician, you're married to one. But I don't think physicians are normal, and I do think that somebody in the family needs to be like, just chill. It's okay, just chill. And so that's who he is for me.
Awesome. Now, do you know how many babies you've worked with or over the years? Do you have an estimate?
I do not. You know what? Somebody asked me that because in 20 years, I'd have to say thousands. I trained at Parkland in the 90s. And at the time that I trained, that was the largest delivery service in the country. And so I have no idea. No idea. But I can tell you this. The first preemies that I took care of are graduating from high school now. So I did an Instagram the other day and they were like, hey, my mom said you took care of me and I'm going to college this year. I'm like, God, I'm getting old.
Oh, wow. But
So that's been really fun.
Oh,
Well, we're out of time. I wish we could talk with you longer.
yeah. Yeah. Well, we have our next guest is up, but thank you so much for all the work that you do and for sharing your experience as a neonatologist. You're the first one on the show. We've had all kinds of doctors. It seems like lately we've been having a lot of doctors. Of different. We had a biochemist on last week. So
oh wow.
Yeah, so it's
wow.
So congratulations on just helping the babies and your dedication and your enthusiasm, your passion.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being a guest on the show.
All right. Thank you so much. All the success to you and have a wonderful evening.
Okay. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay. That was an amazing story. And we have another doctor coming up. I'm not sure exactly what kind of doctor she is. Let me look at her. Dr. Dana Jones-Meggett. And her book is called He Ain't Heavy, He's My Son. But she did talk about it because her son is autistic, and she talks about how she navigated his life with autism. He's an adult now, and she's been an advocate for that. And she's a certified autism specialist.
Okay.
So she will be on camera momentarily, I hope.
Dr. Dana, you there? So we need you to unmute and uncover your camera.
Okay, there was a sound, and the picture all we're waiting for now is your beautiful face to be on the screen. I see the camera, but
interesting.
It's not crossed out or anything.
No, I think she might have something over her camera. The camera's on, but there may be something covering the camera.
Do you have anything? No, you don't have anything covering your camera?
No, and I practiced.
So no, well, Dr. Dana, I don't know if you look closely at your camera, sometimes there's like a little button. If you slide it back and forth, it actually covers your lens. Do you see anything like that? Because your camera is on, it's just covered.
Or, well, the video is not stopped, because I think if it was a stop video, her name would be on the screen.
There's nothing across it. It's nothing.
No, it's nothing. It's nothing crossing it out. So, what are you? Are you on your? Well, okay. There's your name coming up.
Turn the camera off.
No. You turned it off then.
Okay, now. Wait, hold on. So now it's on, but if just put your finger next to the camera. See, can you see my finger going back and forth?
Yes.
Can you see it? You can see us.
Wait, hold on a second.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can see you. I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Oh my goodness.
Yay. We can see you now. Welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you.
No, don't be frustrated, because it happens. And when it's live, anything can happen. That's what we've learned in almost 2 years during the show and interviewing more than 300 guests. So it's all good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
So tell us about your journey to becoming a certified autism specialist.
Well, when my son was 3 years old, he was diagnosed with autism, and I didn't know anything about autism. And I knew right then and there that I needed to become a subject matter expert quickly. And so that led to my pursuit of, finding out everything that I could to help him. And then, how can I help others in similar situations, which is, part of the reason I write books and things too, and, go around and have discussions like this so that people don't feel that they're alone. And, there's so many more resources and information now than when my son was diagnosed, so he's 26 now, so diagnosed 23 years ago. So it's quite different now, but we still have a ways to go.
Wow. Well, that's good that, he's 26 years old, so he's learned to not only live with it, but to overcome some of the challenges that he may have had when he was younger.
Yes, some of them. Autism is considered a spectrum disorder. And some people would, disagree with the fact of saying disorder. So we're going to just say autism spectrum. It's a spectrum. Mm-hmm. So you can have those who are on this spectrum who are, and we don't use the terms highly functioning. That's something else that gets sensitive. So it's so many words and things anymore that are sensitive, but for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to say highly functioning. So they can go off to college, they can get married, they can live the typical life, and then there are those who will be, homebound and need care 24/7, and things like that. Some are able to use the bathroom on their own, feed themselves, and then some are not. So you have this full spectrum, and you can go into a classroom or anywhere in society and you could see a whole room full of people who have this condition, and you go, wow, that's everybody in here is on this condition, because it looks so different, for everyone. And so depending on what we're talking about, if we're talking about speech or occupational therapy, that's where we can start, deciding where my son actually falls on that spectrum, right. Depending on the different areas in his life. And that's true of all of them. So
where was your career headed before you decided to become a specialist?
Well, you know what? I was in the Air Force and I continued in the Air Force. Rhonda, I actually think when I saw your name, I said, I think I've seen her or talked to her something. I don't know. And then I actually looked you up and I was like, oh, she's from this area too. She's from the Maryland area. And I was like, okay. Anyway, and you were in the Air Force. So,
So I was actually in the Army, but I worked with the Air Force.
In the military. Okay. Yes. So, but I was in the Air Force, and I continued my career, and I ended up retiring from the Air Force. But it was challenging, let's say, at times to try to take care of a child with special needs. But in the military, they do have this program called the Exceptional Family Member Program. Yeah. So if you have a dependent, and that could be your spouse, it could be your children, it could be anyone that's determined you're dependent and they have special needs, you are supposed to enroll in this program. And the program is designed to help you get resources and services. So after I retired from the Air Force, I went back and I was the regional lead for that program for the Navy for several years.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
A great way to give back. And I'm glad that you mentioned EFMP because a lot of people don't realize a lot of the services that the military actually does provide for its service members. And this is a great program. And it's great for not just children, but as you said, other relatives who fall in that area to get the services that they need. And you're actually able to be stationed in places where you can more easily access those services.
Yes, and that's another thing that was a long time coming, because again, when my son was diagnosed, it was like, oh, okay, well, it's gonna end your career, okay, you wanna stay here? Okay, well, then you won't get promoted, so those sort of things. But some of that stuff has gone by the wayside, because an area like this, you could be in the military and there's thousands of places you could work, in the military and still have a successful career, and continue to get promoted and all those things. But you do have to fight, advocate for those things, you have to for everything, So, but yeah, that program is, every branch of service has that program. It's mandatory, it's DOD mandated.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm. So
Some places do have more resources than others. Mhm.
when did you decide to write the book?
So I have two of He Ain't Heavy, because I had the first one that I wrote 13 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, 13 years ago. And you can barely see it, but it's over here
Well, I
behind
see
me.
one,
That
I
one
see
is
one on the wall.
that one
Oh,
there.
I see it. I
Oh,
see it.
Yes.
okay, okay, on
That's
the
the
other
first
side.
one.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
that's the first one. And
Okay.
I actually was just taking notes. I just kept really good notes about everything going on with my son and all that. And just one day, because again, working in this field and living this, I just came to the conclusion that I needed to write a book to help other people, because it's easier sometimes to hand a book or say, here's my card, or, those sort of things. So that's kind of how that went. It wasn't intentional at first. And then the second one, which is this one that's hanging up on the wall here, He Ain't Heavy, He's My Son, part 2. During this pandemic, there's just so much that has happened and how it affects us as a special needs family. I wanted to make sure that I had a part 2 to talk about those sort of things. So it's similar to the first book, but it ventures off into different areas. As a mother of a Black son during, these times, and he has a disability. How does that look? How do we feel about that? How do we navigate for him? How do we keep him safe? So, those things are very important to talk about.
Someone asked, one of our regular viewers, Norman Gordon, asked, how do you balance caring for your autistic son how did you balance it while you were studying? Like while you were preparing for your degree or your education?
Yeah, so I've always been really determined, and you really just have to be determined no matter what. And that's a motto of mine, is just to be determined no matter what. And so when I joined the military, I joined to go to college and to travel and, all those sort of things. And I had to be determined to continue to do that. And, a lot of prayer and, and faith and those sort of things, because, God doesn't give you more than you can bear. You just, some days it's like, okay, one more thing happens though, that might not be true. So you just persevere, and you just pray about those things, and you just continue to do what you have to. And when I wrote that first book, I was a single parent in the military, going to school, taking care of a child that's disabled. I can list about 100 other things I can put in there. And so if I can do it, you can do it too. I tell you something else, and this is not a good thing, but I don't sleep very well. And because I don't sleep very well, I would just get up and do my schoolwork. And, my son is routine, so that when he went to bed and went to sleep, I would go and get on the computer and, take my classes and do what I needed to do, but because I wasn't sleeping well anyway. So I'm like, okay, well, let me do something with myself. So, and thankfully there were classes online and, to take and stuff like that. So.
Well, we hear a lot about how difficult, having a child who has autism can be, how difficult it can be on the family. But we don't often hear about how maybe sometimes those challenges can bring people together. Did you experience both sides of that?
Oh, yes. Wonderful, wonderful question. And well, I've talked about how I had a church in the past that, you go there with your child, because I was determined, again, even for my son, like, okay, eventually he'll get this, it'll be another routine that he'll get used to with coming to church every Sunday. But that particular church at that time, there were people in there that just were not educated. Again, my son was diagnosed 20 some years ago. So, they were like, well, what's wrong with him? I'm in church, and I'm thinking that that's the last place people would say stuff like that. And to say what's wrong with him is just not the approach that you should take. It's offensive to say that to anybody. So, yeah, it would be things like that. And so, later on, we, moved on to, other churches and stuff like that. The church we have now has a special needs ministry. And my son does virtually an hour on Sundays, and, he's involved in that. to whatever level that they can be involved. So, so like I said, good and bad. I can tell you that my son, he's never asked for, or begged for certain shoes or jeans or, iPhones and different things like that. So I see those things as a positive. And although I do continue to treat him like, any other kid that, if he didn't have autism, I would still do those things for him. But it's just the fact that because he has autism and the way he's affected by it, he doesn't ask for those things, and
Right. Those
yeah,
things aren't. the
they're not
people-
important.
Right.
No, they're not important. And he has feelings, emotions like anyone else. The first time I took him to Disney, I remember when it was time to leave, he shed a tear. My son rarely ever cries, ever. So he was so, sad that we were leaving, but he had such a great time and meant so much. That's one of those moments in life for me that I will always remember, just his emotion and how much fun we had together. So, yeah. There's definitely both sides. There's definitely both sides of this thing. So,
But what do you think? What do you think helped him to, because basically he's leading a life like just about anybody else would. He's older. He's got a life and everything. So, what was it that helped him to overcome? I think I asked you a similar question earlier, but I mean, I'm really curious as to when a person is on the spectrum and they have any challenge, I'm always curious as to how they're able to overcome that and say, okay, that might be something that's in my life, but it's not me. It doesn't describe who I am or what I am.
that's the way I see it for him, because I'm his voice. I will tell you that he has lots of struggles. He has lots of challenges. My son hasn't completely overcome. I worked really hard to with hopes that would be his reality, but in fact it is not his reality. He does have a lot of challenges and things like that. And but we all have challenges, and we just try to navigate that thing the best that we can. So and then you focus on the things that they can do versus spending so much time focusing on, well, he can't do this, can't do that. And the schools used to do that a lot when, again, back during the time when my son was diagnosed, they would say, well, he can't do this and, da, 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 da. Okay, but can we focus on what he can do and what he does like? He used to, you get him involved in different activities and see what sparks, like you would with any other child, right? They're here for their own journey and to figure these things out for themselves, what they would like to do and their passions and different things like that. And they change over time, like they do for the rest of us. My son used to like horses and riding them, tacking them, doing all those sort of things when he was younger. Well, as he got older, not so much, and it's a little bit more challenging to find things that he really enjoys like that. So
Now,
yeah,
is he on his own? Does he live on his own?
no.
Is he able to live on his own?
No, he still lives with
Okay.
us.
Okay.
But he will likely be going to a home, to residential, where he will have friends and he'll have activities and he'll live a life as if I have to think about it in terms of like, my son is going off to college. This is his version of he's going off to college, because if you sit in it too long, you'll think about it in a way that'll make you feel like you're being selfish. It'll make you feel like you're it'll break your heart, first of all, trying to do these things. But you do have to realize that none of us are here with infinite amount of time on the planet. So you do have to plan, what happens when you're no longer here. And so if I can do that for him while I am still here and I pick the place, then, I'll feel much better about that than turning over in my grave trying to figure out what happened to my son, so that's what I'm trying to do. And it is a hard decision to make. But, you do the best that you can and make the best decisions with the information that you have at the time.
Right.
And if you realize it doesn't work out, then you just do something else. Try something else. Yes.
That's what we do in almost anything.
Yes.
I did put your website in the chat in case people want to learn more about you, learn more about the book. And I know we talked basically about life having an autistic son, but what are some of the things that you have in the book? What are some of the things that you describe in the book?
Well, I talk about other people in the book, not just my experience. So with my son, because I want the book to serve as a guide, as a resource to others to avoid some of the pitfalls that we went through. And there's a lot of famous people out there. I talk about some of them who have children with autism. Some you may know, some you may not know. I'm sure you know the common ones like Toni Braxton, Jenny McCarthy, but there are tons of others other than them. And not everyone has come out and said something about it, but it's 1 in 44. 1 in 44 have autism today.
Wow.
So if you don't know someone yet, you probably will. And just disabilities as a whole, I think we oftentimes focus on the physical disabilities, and we don't necessarily think about it from the terms of these other aspects like developmental or mental or any of those sort of things. But this is a possibility for all of us. So that's the way I look at that. And like, we need to develop more compassion, because if it's not you now, it may be you at some point in time. And I talk about that in the book. That's one of the things that I discuss in the book, because if it's not you now, it'll be you at some point if you're fortunate to stay on this planet, or certainly will be someone that you love and you care about. And how would you want them to be treated? So those are the things we have to keep in mind. I talk about other people who have disabilities, who went on to do fabulous things, even as far back as Harriet Tubman. She had epilepsy, but she still, look at all the things she accomplished. I mean, so there's lots of things. There's conversations out there about Bill Gates and, Elon Musk and all that sort of thing. So I talk about those things in there. I talk about where we started with people with disabilities and how they were treated in the past, especially those of color. Some really heinous things happened to them. And what we don't want is for history to repeat itself.
Yes.
In any form, so I talk about all of those things, and then I, try to wrap everything up into a nice, neat bow of how we all are made in God's image, and we're all here for God's purpose, and whatever you can do or can't do, you're here for a purpose, or otherwise you would not be, you wouldn't be here. So it's that simple for me with it. And people with disabilities are just people at the end of the day trying to live their best life, just like the rest of us.
Amen.
So,
well, you mentioned a lot of notable people who are dealing with children who have autism. Sean Stockman from Boys to Men,
yes,
one, and
that's
he
right.
started the foundation Micah's Voice, which I'll give another shout out to Zeta Phi Beta. We have partnered with Micah's Voice to bring more awareness to people who are dealing with autism and different parts of the spectrum. So I think your book is very timely in that respect, because more and more people are starting to learn what autism is. I didn't know what it was at first.
Yes.
Yeah, the movie Rain Man kind of put it on the scene. On the scene, a portrayal of an autistic person.
So I'm guessing you weren't a fan of Rain Man.
No.
Well, it was before. It would have been before your son was born.
I know, but that's all they had, and that's all they could come up with. And so then that made everyone diagnosed with autism. They think that they are.
So it was like they're savant. It's like it becomes like a stereotype.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's a huge spectrum, and most of the time it doesn't look like that anyway. It just really does not. So I don't watch that movie, but no.
Okay. I did want to ask a couple more questions. Did you have other children? That's the first one. And
no,
you don't have other children. And what signs, like what age was your son when you started to notice that there was something slightly different?
That was a good question. That early intervention is key. So my son was, I'd say 2, when I noticed that seems to be a delay in his speech. That was the first thing.
Okay.
And I was like, well, maybe he can't hear, and when you don't have any other children to compare them to, you do kind of scratch your head like, I think something is different, but I'm not quite sure what it is. So I started taking him to doctors. And he did have like flat tympanograms. So there was some issue with his ears, but that wasn't the real deal that was happening with my son. And so by the time he was 3, he was finally diagnosed. And even then it was something called a pervasive developmental delay. So they called it PDD, which was a way of saying, well, we're not quite sure, but it might be autism, but we'll see how this plays out. And so then he ended up with the diagnosis of autism. So, but that speech was a main thing for me. I thought he was just kind of quirky, he just did things. He liked to sit in the same seat. He liked to eat out of the same plate. He liked things a certain kind of way, and all these sort of things. I was like, oh, that's cute, But yeah, he was kind of rigid about those sort of things. You like things a certain way, but he was never a picky eater. He didn't do a lot of the like they talk about the eye contact. They lack eye contact. Let's see, again, it's the spectrum. So that wasn't my son's issue, is not the eye contact. And he didn't do a whole lot of the toe walking, but that speech was a key to speech, and his social wasn't there. And those are usually in anyone on the spectrum. They usually show some signs of that, the speech and the social issues are usually lacking or unique.
Okay, because some children do speak late. I mean, they're is normally males. Well, the ones I hear about are males. Females seem to be more chatty, not with autism. I mean, just in general, female children seem to be more chatty. Boys don't talk as early as girls generally. I don't know what the stats say. I'm just going by what people I know who have kids say. That's but kudos to you for not only being an advocate for your son, but sharing with other people so that they can benefit from your experience, and for being all the way to being a certified specialist.
Thank you. That's
very important. And
yes,
and autism has become so common now. And maybe
1 in 44.
It may have been happening in the past, and people just didn't diagnose it as autism.
There's some conversations
about something else.
There are some conversations like that. So again, some of the language, I try to be careful because you can offend. I've been in a room where, again, you have the dad there that's advocating for his child and can't bring his child because the child would be, have behaviors, to where it would, be aggressive towards people. And then you had the self-advocates there who have jobs, live on their own. So it was a full spectrum in the room. And so when one side would say something, the other side would kind of get offended, at times, because the self-advocates, the ones that have autism but are able to work and do all these other things, they're going, well, why are you trying to find drugs? This was an FDA meeting, one of the meetings I remember in particular. Well, why are we trying to come up with more drugs? Why can't we come up with more resources, more services, more housing, and those sort of things, the ones that can self-advocate, right? But then again, here's the dad over here that's going, well, I can't even bring my little Johnny to this meeting because he would do all kinds of things in this room, right? Okay, so we have to find a way to have the resources that everyone can benefit from. There's no one resource that's going to work for everybody, and everybody should be respected. There's no one autism. One person, that's just one person. So
this is another reason why representation matters.
Yes.
Because you want to have people who are on all parts of the spectrum who can advocate, because if you're only going by one, then all you're going to have is resources. If you go by another one, all you're going to have is more and more drugs. And
yes,
we're probably one of the most overly medicated countries in the world.
Indeed, because it's big money.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's big money. We're not looking for maybe we are looking for cures. I don't know.
We're looking for salve for symptoms, but not for a cure to eliminate. Because if we eliminate it, then you won't need the drugs.
And then
if
they
the
won't
person
get
is
money.
cured, they don't need medicine. And
Mhm.
so, a lot of it's not really geared toward cures. Just in general, it's geared towards just masking symptoms, not curing.
Absolutely. And those there are ones on the spectrum that would tell you that they don't need a cure because they're not a disease and they're not broken. And we don't want to hear about that. There are ones that can advocate for themselves that would say that. But the ones that have the severe behavior issues, their parents would tell you that, oh yeah, can I get that cure like yesterday? So again, that full spectrum.
The full spectrum. Well, we're at the end of our time, and we see your book, He Ain't Heavy, He's My Son. There's a part 1 and a part 2. And Dr. Dana Jones-Meggett is an advocate and a specialist for those who have autism and their families. So we thank you for your service and to our country in the Air Force and also in the field of autism.
Thank you, ladies. I really appreciate the time.
Okay. Thank you. And
Thank you.
best wishes to you. Have a great
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Now, before we head into our kickback, someone asked about the closed caption. And did you see that comment, Rhonda?
Let me look. I'm looking.
I don't know. I see the closed caption, but I don't know if it's on everybody's.
It's not on my computer.
Do anything to put it there. so I don't know. So anyway, I don't know. If you're seeing the closed caption, you have to work with it. Rhonda says she doesn't see the closed caption. I see it on my phone. It could be on phones. That could be a phone thing.
Let me look on my phone and see.
I'm just wondering, just because someone said it, and I do see it on my phone when we're talking. So, but we're going to bring on our, we don't have all of our book clubs signed on yet. I don't know where they are, but we're going to bring on the ones that we do have. And
it's
then
on,
we're going to,
on the phone.
It's just on the phone. Okay.
Yeah.
So whoever said something about it, I forgot who it was, but you have to turn them off yourself. George Peasant says you have to turn it off yourself, and it's a phone function. So I don't know how to do it on my phone, and so I can help you with your phone, whoever you are. I didn't turn it on, so I don't know how to turn it off. I'm sure it's in settings somewhere, but it could be in Facebook settings, or it could just be in the phone settings. I don't know. But at any rate, we're going to have our book club kickback with Reshonda Tate-Billingsley. And right now we have 2 book clubs on with us. And I think we had 10 book clubs who were supposed to be on. But as they sign on, we'll bring them on. And we're going to have our discussion with Reshonda about her new book, her latest book, which is Miss Pearly's Girls.
Hi, Reshonda.
Oh, let me unmute.
I do this all day long, and you think I would know how to work the mute button. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. Congratulations on the release of your book.
Thank
you. Which book is this for you?
Number 53.
53. I knew you had I knew it was close to that 50 or so. Kudos to you for continuing to write. And I think I've known you since book 1, maybe.
Number 1, been
okay,
there supporting.
I knew it was you and Victoria. I've known both of you all since your book number 1. So, and you all have really made a mark in the literary world. You all have set an example for other people to push the envelope and not just be satisfied with whatever exists right now, challenging the industry, doing your own thing with publishing. So you all have, and with movies, you all are doing movies, you're doing all kinds.
Yes, ma'am.
So just give us like an update first on just how the book's doing and how you've been doing before we get into the discussion.
So the book is doing great. It's doing better than expected. So I'm really excited about that. My publishers are very pleased with it. And I love when a book has legs and people continue to talk about it, after the release date. So I'm really thrilled about the reception that it's gotten. And I worked and reworked and tried to make sure I gave the readers something that they would enjoy reading and that I would be proud to produce.
Okay, and you have your books are always noted for lots of drama, and you didn't disappoint with this book.
Right. But what I wanted to do was do a little bit more mature drama. Some of the issues that a lot of us go through. Some of my early books, I dealt a lot with, a cheating man and who's sleeping with whom and all of that. And I really wanted to give the readers a little bit more and what I call bring them the drama, but where it's not just over the top drama page after page.
Okay. Well, it was still quite a bit of drama. So before we get into the discussion, I like to have each book club say, representative say who you're representing, which book club and where you're located. So we'll start with Kay. Kay is actually in 2 book clubs, so she can tell us which 2 she's in.
Hello, I'm Kay Larry. I'm in the Kush City Book Club in Houston and the PWOC, Prominent Women of Color in Florida and Georgia, and Miss Tony's on and she'll talk about that book club.
Okay. Well, then I go to Mama Tony. That's what she calls herself.
Hello, Reshonda. How are you?
Hello, I'm good.
I'm Tony. You know me from everywhere.
Yes,
And I represent PWOC, and we've been following you for long. I think I'm like Gwen. I think if I looked at my shelf, I probably got everything you wrote, including your young adult books. I read and reviewed those also. So I've enjoyed this book so far. Let me tell you, the man had to ask me to move. I was flying home yesterday and I was so into the book and he was trying to get by and I was like, what do you want?
I love it.
It is engrossing. Stephanie, tell us. Stephanie is she's one of our regular viewers that's on almost every week, and almost every week she wins a book. We have books we give away based on trivia questions. Stephanie wins almost every week. So she's good. She's quick. She's quick. She's quick looking things up. She's quick and she's not shy about telling the answers. So Stephanie, where are you calling us from?
I'm from San Diego, California, and I'm representing Mocha Girls Read Book Club.
Okay, and then
I really this was my first Rhonda Tate-Billingsley book, and I really enjoyed it so much I couldn't put it down. I finished it in one night.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a new reader. And Claire Ann Perkins, she's not on screen, but her microphone's on. You don't want us to see you. Can you tell us where you're from, Claire?
I'm from East Moline, Illinois. It's an area called the Quad Cities. It's split between Iowa and Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you're in the reading group.
Yeah, Book of the River. We've been meeting for 40 plus years.
Wow.
Wow.
So and I'm having a problem with my internet connection. So
Okay.
Well, we can hear you.
okay.
Yeah, but the video takes a lot of bandwidth, so that's probably why she has the camera off.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. You don't have to be, your face doesn't have to be on. So sometimes people don't, they're not camera ready at the particular time, but they want to participate in the discussion. So, that's a factor too. So in terms of the book itself, Miss Pearly's Girls, I guess someone who has read the book, tell us about, just give us an overview I read it, but I don't want to be the one to tell it. So one of the other readers, just give us an overview of who the characters are and about the book from what you're reading.
Did we say Brenda? Did we meet Brenda?
No, I didn't, because Brenda was off camera when I was going around. I'm sorry, I apologize, Brenda.
Turn your mic on.
Turn your mic on. Brenda is a book club member and a very, very old friend. So old in terms of years, not old in terms of years of the friendship, not her years. So anyway.
Shut up, Gwen. Hi, I'm Brenda Younger, and I'm with the Kush City Book Club. And it's a pleasure to be here today.
Okay, I think you've met Reshonda. Haven't you met her at the festival?
Yeah, I think it was about three years ago at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Festival, and she and
And
Valerie.
Victoria were there together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're gonna be this year. They're gonna be at the festival this year together. So,
Okay.
so we're
Okay.
looking forward to that. So somebody who read the book, tell us, or you don't have had to read the whole book because you can kind of tell generally, even if you read half the book. Just tell us about the main characters and like give us a wrap up of what the book is about. Who wants to do it?
Okay, I'll go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Who's
Okay,
talking?
so
Oh,
this is
Stephanie, can you turn up your volume a little bit? Is that possible?
Okay, let me see.
What on your
Can you hear me now?
yeah,
Yes,
that's
we
much
can.
better. That's much better.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So Miss Pearly Girls unfolds in Smackover, Arkansas, and it tells the story of Miss Pearly Bell and her four girls, Maxine Bell Cartwright, Stella Bell, Leslie Bell, Star Owens. And the family comes together when Mama Pearl, they discover that Mama Pearl has stomach cancer. And the four girls have not been getting along. And we find out that one of the reasons they have not been getting along is that they've been holding secrets. And it seems that every sister has a secret. And it is through these secrets that we learn why there's so much hostility and backbiting and fighting amongst the girls. But we find out that there's a lot of love, but the secrets have to be exposed before we see it. So it's a wonderful story as the secrets start to be revealed.
Very good. Thank you, Stephanie. There's a couple of things that I learned in this book. That come to the forefront in my mind in this book. A couple of things. One is small town. In small towns, everybody knows everybody's business.
Mhm.
And Smackover, isn't that Smackover a real place or is that a made up place?
It is. That is my hometown where I'm originally
okay.
from.
Smackover. How many people in Smackover?
2,600.
Wow, that is a small town. So everybody
Yeah.
knows everybody's business in those small towns.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. But the other is when somebody is dying or near death, a lot of things come out. It's something about the person being gone or almost been gone that brings people into the family that you didn't know about, or just people talking about hurts and different things in the past that they've been holding in. It's something about that brings that out in people. And I know from my situation, my father passed away. And some of it, funerals can also take on a different spirit if there's been any kind of hostility or situations in the past. I know when my personal family situation, my dad had a daughter that we did not grow up with. My dad was a pastor, but he had her before he became a pastor and before my parents got married. But we didn't know about her until we were adults. And at my dad's service, people saw her for the first time because he didn't want people to know about her, which we didn't understand but you know how church can be, how church people can be and how restrictive. And it happened before he was married to our mom. So, but he kept her like a secret. And when my dad passed, he was 89. He passed last January. Our sister, that's an adult, that we didn't grow up with, she's older. She's 70, I think, or 69. So, the time it would have been good if people had gotten a chance to meet her while he was alive. But a lot of people, she was at the service, and when you line up to go in, normally it's by age. So she was the first. she and her husband were the first in line to line up to go in. So just things come out at funerals that, or when someone's dying or whenever, that things come out. So that was kind of like what happened in this story. Things came out.
So Reshonda, did Stephanie hit the nail on the head when she described the book?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really just, I would add how those secrets have long-term effects.
Yeah.
And, we always, one of the things I did with Maxine is I wanted to create immediately, you're like, I don't like Maxine, but there's a reason, because I believe all people, not all people are all bad, and they're not all good. And so I'm big on motivation. What is the motivation behind this person? And so that was Maxine's motivation, that secret.
Yeah, and it was a big secret because you really didn't reveal, you waited until 3/4 of the book before we knew what Maxine's problem was, because we just thought she was mean,
Right.
But you really kept that secret hidden, well hidden. And you kept the secret about because we're discussing the book. So whoever is watching it and hasn't read it, these are spoilers. So that's just the way it is. But anyway, you kept the reader guessing about who the father was of Maxine's baby. I thought it was the dad at first, which would have been horrible. But I actually know some people that did happen with their actual biological father, which is a horrible thing to go through. But you kept that a secret too. And I like the way you brought in the sister, Pearly's sister, toward the end. And she really showed herself out.
She did, but that it's common that people would take the side of their husband over a child in the family. I've seen that all too often.
Yeah, I've seen that too. We had one young lady, this was years ago, Reshonda. It was about around the time when you first started writing, because she came to the bookstore. She had a book about being raped by her stepfather. And the book was her way of telling her mother. Her mother didn't know that this had happened. And then her mother went on tour with her with the book. That was like their way of healing. So we met her mother too. And it was deep. I mean, it was, so yeah, these things happen. It's horrible. It's horrible for that to happen to anybody, but it's real, and it happens to people. I really hate that if the wife is looking the other way, and in this young lady's case, her mother really didn't know, and the daughter didn't tell till she wrote this book at like 30 years old.
Well, this question is for the book club members. I want to know, which sister do you feel you identified with most? Which of Miss Pearly's girls did you identify with?
I kind of identified a little bit with each of them, as the oldest of and was the one who had to babysit, you couldn't do things because my parents wanted to do something, and they weren't that mean like Miss Pearly, but if they want to do something, it was like, okay, you can't go because we have to do this. And I kind of always had a certain amount of resentment at some points, toward my younger siblings, and especially my baby brother, because I was like 17, and then you got to stay here with Frank, and Frank, I ain't had no baby, you did. But then by the other side of that was so much love, it didn't turn into the way these girls turn out. We fortunately we still love each other to this day.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess somebody else go, because I've been talking too much. about who you identify with, if you identify with any of the sisters. Nobody's gonna say anything. Okay, nobody wants to fess up that they actually can relate to Star or Stella or Leslie. So
I feel like Mama Tony, you can, at some point, you can identify with all of them.
in a certain,
Because
in a certain
they all
aspect of
had,
it.
they all had, you know, they were all very human once their traits were exposed. And I just felt like, you know, if I put myself in their places, what would I do? And, you know, would it be any different? And, you know, I like that they all were forgiving. And I felt like, yeah, I've had some, you know, hostility with siblings, but in the end, we wound up forgiving each other. So I could feel their pain.
That's good.
I commented to a friend as I read the book that I was having difficulty. I identified the most. I have no sisters. I have 4 brothers.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
And so I had to, you know, I did have to kind of babysit because I was the oldest. But even, you know, with 4 brothers, there was a bond between them, but I wasn't really included in that bond because I was bossy and a girl. You know? So I really don't relate to the interplay of the squabble between sisters, because I would have died for a sister. I really wanted a sister.
Yeah, see, I mean, it was hard for me. My sister and I have an amazing relationship. I don't think we have ever in our lifetime had an argument. So it was difficult for me to relate to the sisters at all. But I do interview people, and I do, you know, do a lot of homework, and I've seen stuff in my own family. You know, I've seen people that will go years without talking to their sister. And so what I wanted to do was draw on all of that, but I did have to go outside the family because my sister and I can't relate at all.
That's interesting. So you always are good with character development, Reshonda. This is one of the strengths of your writing. That and drama, page turning. Your books are never boring, even if I don't like them all at the same level. You know, any author that you read a lot, there's certain books you like more than others. But I can say not one of your books has ever been boring. Like, I never had to struggle to read. You know, some books you used to struggle. Like, you know, it's like torture to get to page 50, and it feels like you read 200 pages. Your books really do move. So you have perfected that part of your craft, and you had it from day one. I read your first book, and I haven't read all your books. I read most of them, but I didn't read the young adult books because it was that, you know, my daughter read them because she was in like high school or middle school when those came out.
Lydia brought a blast from the past. She said, "Let the church say amen."
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that was wasn't that the one that was made into the movie?
It's one of the ones. The other one was The Secret She Kept. Yeah.
Oh, A Secret She Kept. Okay. So how are you still doing that? Like, are you still working on movies with your books? Are you still?
I am. Hollywood is slow go. You know, I actually had 7 films in that Let the Church Say Amen deal, and then the management was replaced, the people that buy it, and that's quite common in Hollywood. So we still have some that are in the works, but we're also Victoria and I are doing movies ourselves. So we've written a couple. We have one that's coming out at Christmas and another one that we're shooting this Christmas.
Oh, where is it going to be aired?
So the one we're shooting at that's coming up is actually based in Maine. And we would love to shoot in Houston because it's, you know, it's home, it's different, but it's the tax incentive. So that's what we're working on.
Oh, okay. So when is it? What platform is it going to be on? Is it going to be on Netflix? It's going to be
so you never know until it's sold, until it's finished and they see the final product. And so that's the way a lot of movie producers are doing it now. They get the movie done and then you take in and field offers.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, congratulations on that. Now, what umbrella is that being done under? Is that a new, like a side venture? Is Brown Girls Books or Brown Girls Films?
It's
What is
Brown
it?
Girls Entertainment. It is actually
Okay.
a division of Brown Girls.
I love that.
Okay.
Brown Girls Entertainment. And you two have come a long way with the publishing company, because I mean, really, it's still a fairly young publishing company. It's only been a few years.
It
It's
is.
been a few years.
Yeah, I mean, and the problem is that it is a whole lot more work than we anticipated. And it's just the two of us. And as you may know, with her career, it has just gone to another stratosphere right now.
Right.
And so that is the struggle that we're having with Brown Girls. We love the company, but it's so hard. And as many of you may know, books aren't selling as much, and it's hard when you have limited staff. As Gwen can probably tell you,
Yeah.
running a bookstore and doing all of that.
Yeah, I my life is in another phase now where I bring in help. I bring in contractual help. So because I don't want to, I tell people I will never, ever, ever, never, never, ever, ever hire anybody again. The employees, all of that. And what, it was fine while it lasted. And I did that for 20 years, not just with Kush City, but before I had Kush City, we had employees at one of other companies. I had my own business before I met my husband. So we met each other in separate businesses. Then we got together and then we created another business. So I've been hiring people for a long time, 25 years. I did it for. I will never, ever do it again. But, I work with some exceptional people. I just hired them for the things that I need. And and then I don't, and if I don't need them, I don't have to make a payroll. I don't have to cover the expense. So, but I give you all kudos for just stepping out and being creative and not being fearful. Some people are risk averse. They're scared to do something different and new. That's not you two. So you all are always out there doing things. Now I have some more questions about the book.
Okay.
Because I wanted to find out I wanted to ask the book clubs, who was your favorite character? Okay, first, and then we'll go around. Everybody can say who their favorite character was. And then who was your least favorite character? So I'm gonna go last. So I'm gonna go so Kay, you go first.
Well, I want to go with Lincoln, only because he was supportive. He was kind of like not a main character, but his role was important, and I like how he was true to the end. So Lincoln was my favorite character of just the characters in general. I didn't have a favorite sister.
Okay. Well, who was your least favorite character that was in the book? Probably everybody might have had the same least favorite. So, but I'll let everybody see who theirs was.
Well, I'm gonna go with the aunt. The toss between the aunt and her husband. So I didn't have a least favorite sister because I could understand where all of them were coming from. So even Maxine, I felt like even at the beginning that there was a reason why she was so mean. And like some of you have said, because she also had to keep the children, she couldn't go where she needed to go. And I kind of figured before it was told that the last child was going to be hers, mainly because she looked different and she treated her vastly different. So because I kind of understood where all the sisters were coming from, I didn't have a least favorite sister. I just kind of waited for the whole stories to be told. So my least favorite characters were the villains, in my opinion.
Yeah, they were dastardly. Stephanie, what about you?
My favorite character is funny because she didn't start out being my favorite character, but I think I started liking her towards the end was Cheyenne, Star's daughter. And I liked her because she seemed to, although she was precocious or, as some folks would say, too grown, but I like that she, first off, she was accepting of Leslie, before anyone else was. And she was like, she kept giving teaching moments to the adults. And I said, oh, I love her. So she was my first one. My favorite throughout. Towards as we went to the end, I said, I'm starting to really like this girl, and I think that she thinks that the author probably could do a whole book on her alone, her and her hair color and the whole bit. My least was probably, of course, the villains in the story, which was the aunt and the aunt and uncle. Oh my God, they were, of course they were bad. They, badly do. So that was it in a nutshell.
Yeah, they were horrible. So I guess I don't have to ask anybody else who their least favorite characters were, because those two were just absolutely horrible people. And I was shocked. And I'll go to you, Mama Tony, for the next for your favorites. But I was somewhat shocked, and I know it was for shock value, that he had the nerve to show up and want to get to know Leslie. I just thought that was, how dare you? But, there's probably some people that would do something like that.
And that actually was based on someone that did happen to them like that.
Oh, okay. I'm like, wow. But his wife was worse than him, because she knew he was a child molester. And she covered up and made excuses and ruined her relationship with her sister. So she was worse than him, even though he was really just, should have been locked up like R. Kelly. But anyway, Mama Tony, who was your favorite character?
My favorite characters were really Walter and Lincoln. Those men were there from start to finish. No matter what they did, no matter how many times they got cussed out, how many times they got pushed aside, they were there. They were like stone. When they needed to back away to give them time to just explode, they did that. But when they needed to be there for that tender moment, they were there for that. So those were it was a toss-up. Those were my two favorite characters. Like everybody else, I wanted to strangle Uncle. Okay? I just hang up by the light and just let it whirl till it didn't make sense. And why would you support somebody who is doing the wrong thing? Love ain't that deep, okay?
I don't think that's not love. That's
what I'm saying. It was
that's something else. But Reshonda's right. It's not the people who have somebody, and the people who we know about publicly that came, like R. Kelly and Bill Cosby. They have people who enable them to do the things that they do. People are covering up, making excuses. In some cases, in R. Kelly's case, bringing the women, I think somebody did that with Bill Cosby too. Those are just two and I like with the Epstein guy. People were bringing people to that lady that's indicted right now. They're just people who, I don't know, they're just sick. They're just, I don't know. But Brenda, do you want to say your favorite character?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't had an opportunity to read the book yet, so I'm here for the spoilers, but I'm definitely intrigued and looking forward to meeting all these people. And I'm looking forward to see if I see any parallels. I come from a big family. I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters, and then immediate cousins. There were 13 of them, and they have a lot of secrets in that group of cousins. So I'm just looking forward to seeing if I see any, parallels or whatever. So, yeah.
Okay, what about you, Charlene?
I would have to say my favorite characters were Walter and Lincoln, the men, because of their love and how they stood by their wife, their women. Even though it was rough at times, but they were there. They were rock solid. And I enjoyed that in that book, because a lot of times our Black men are not presented in that positive vein, but they were there for them. But I have to tell you, ladies, I'm an only child. And so being an only child, you envy and you're jealous of people that have siblings. And I could not understand, why these women, couldn't be together. I'm like, you have a jewel, you have a sister, a sibling. But I was mad at Maxine most of the book, okay? And the reason being was because how and what did you do to, I understand being mean, okay, and not wanting to be bothered, with her sisters, but you caused that young child to feel like you hated her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That not that you were just mean, but that you hated her. And I thought you had to do some terrible things. Your actions had to convey something, really deep in order for her to think that you hated her. So I was mad at Maxine most of the book. I lightened up when you find out the secret,
why.
but I still was like, girlfriend, you could have lightened up on it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, wow. And so, yeah, I had a problem with Maxine, but I enjoyed the men. I enjoyed the book, but I think it was so indicative of our culture. I mean, sorry to say, and this is my culture and this is what I know, but how often do we know about families that had families on the other side of town, or boys finding out when they entered the army that's not your daddy, this you have your mother's maiden name because of what? And I knew a lot of friends, a lot of guys that it crippled them. It crippled them not knowing these kind of things and the surprises. And this is not my sister. This is your mother. It's sad to say, but it's in our culture. I ended up, when my father died, he had a son and a daughter, and I'm the only child. Why didn't you give us the opportunity to meet or to know? You know what I'm saying? Regardless of the illegitimacy of it. Of not, being able to have a relationship. So it was something that was common, but it was, as the author, Reshonds, as you indicated, it's so hurtful. The damage that it does with secrets is it's something else. So, but I wanted to add that, ladies.
Okay. Well, as someone who was one of 4 siblings, two girls and 2 boys, I'm second. My sister's the oldest. We are completely opposite people, and we really didn't get along, and we still struggle sometimes. It's gotten better over the years. I think after my mom passed, because some of it is like you're vying for your parents' attention, but then when they're not there, it's like even as an adult. But we are just completely, our personalities are like opposite. And if we weren't sisters, we wouldn't be friends, because we're just 2 totally different people. We just, my personality is completely different from hers. And but over the years, we've learned, to we come together. We've always had a good family gatherings. My daughter went to visit them for a month every summer. And she ended up going to school in North Carolina because my sister's in North Carolina. I'm in Houston. She ended up going to North Carolina Central because she visited my sister every summer for a month. And then my brother-in-law took her to visit the school. And so she spent 5 years in North Carolina because of that. So, and my sister, she would drop, if something was wrong with my daughter, she would drop everything, so. We have a great relationship like that. Her daughters came for the summer. They're older than my daughter. They would come here for a month. So that was the good part. We're just 2 different people. So sometimes we clash.
Reshonds, I'm seeing a lot of different emotions, basically running the gamut of emotions. Is that something that you were going for when you created these characters?
I did. As I said, I wanted to create complex characters. I wanted to deal with the motivations. I wanted you to see what made them who they were. And then the long-term effects, the colorism with Leslie, and I drew on my own experience as well as many of the people I talked to. The colorism with Leslie came from one of my nieces who I talked to her. I was just a random conversation. And I said, "You're so pretty." And she said, "I'm not pretty, I'm Black." And it just broke my heart. And it was because the family teased her all the time because she was the darkest one in the family. And I think that people don't realize those type of things have long-term effects. So I wanted to show all of that in my storytelling.
Yeah, it's sad that that still actually happens. It doesn't happen as much as it did before, but it's still out there where we think that the lighter someone is, the prettier that they are. Or now it's actually turned around where people think the darker you are, the more gorgeous you are, and they don't like the light-skinned person. So it kind of runs to either.
Clarion, we didn't get your your favorite characters.
Like a couple of other people said, I liked the men the best. Even Ty, even though he had them riding around in that in that big rig cab, you know. But even at the end, he had proven himself to me, and he was one of the good guys. I kind of had my suspicions in the beginning of the book. But yeah, Lincoln, Walt, and Ty, they were my favorite characters because they were so loving and so supportive of their wives. And that was just the way she expressed them or showed them expressing their love. I thought, you know, most guys that you run into, or a lot of the guys that you run into, don't have that understanding. You know, they don't know when to back off and just let you be. You know, they want to fix things, so they're still always there trying to fix things instead of just letting you have your moment or whatever, be mad, whatever it is, and then come. So I enjoyed the three guys.
Yeah, Ty did kind of give you pause because you didn't know if he was a hustler in a negative way or just one of those, you know, trifling people, but he just did things differently. You know, Star probably didn't help, you know.
Yeah, she was a bit much.
She was a bit much. But with what Stella did to her, I would have been really, really ticked off. But I guess it had been so many years had passed. But that just wasn't nice what Stella did. So anyway, but you created some very compelling characters. And I wrote something down. This was a quote from Leslie. But it's a quote for authors. You wrote something in the book, this special a statement especially for authors. And as an author, that's why it touched me. And it's even, she said, even though I write fiction, because Leslie was an author, she said, I know facts. And I really like that. So,
Anyway. That line too. That's a good line.
Yeah. Even though I write fiction, I know facts. So I really like that.
Can we ask Reshonda a question?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. Would you have any advice? I am a budding author. I just finished a murder mystery, and I'm shopping it to agents. And do you have any? So I'm brand new. What advice would you have for a brand new author who's trying to get their foot in the door?
It's just about building a buzz right now. You know, getting people talking about your book. That's what will make the agents take interest. That's what will make the publishers take interest. And so, you know, I highly suggest independent publishing simply because, you know, you can be waiting forever on a mainstream publisher to publish your book. And so get it out in front of the people and get people talking about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, and I tell authors this, their publishers are not looking to take a risk. You know, they're looking for something that has legs, that pretty much is a guaranteed sale. And so if you self-publish and you show that you are selling books, that's your end, because they're looking for people who have a platform. Now with social media, people are looking at social media numbers because everything's public. They're looking at that, and they're looking at the sales that you were able to generate. And a lot of times they'll take that same book and republish it once you're under their umbrella. You know, they'll do that. But I'm with Reshonda on that. waiting for somebody to validate you. You could be waiting forever. And so I self-published all 13 of my books. I don't know. I've never tried to go with a bigger publisher, but I don't knock it. It's whatever you want. And that's the beauty now. You can do whatever you want. If you want to do it yourself, you can do it. And you can have high quality product now, whereas in the past that maybe not be available to you. Or you can find a publisher. There's some new publishers. I know Entice is starting a publishing company. And she's going to be looking for submissions. That might be an avenue, and she's with Kensington. Her imprint that she has is called Black Odyssey Media. I just communicated with her yesterday. It's with Kensington, and she's launching early next year, but they're looking for books. So it's blackodyssey.net. And Entice.
What is it called again?
blackodyssey.net is the website. There's a link for submissions because I went on there yesterday when she told me about it. So it's fresh in my mind. So yeah, pursue some, and I know she's looking for mysteries. So that was one of the genres that they were looking for.
Since we're talking about writing, Stephanie brought up, she touched on something. She said she would like to see some of these characters with their own stories. Is that something that you're looking at doing in the future? Maybe taking some of these characters and branching off to other books?
Yeah, no, that's not on the agenda. I'm actually shifting for a little bit. I'm working on a historical fiction novel.
Really?
I am. I'm really excited about it. I've been working on it for a while. And it is on Hattie McDaniel. It is the Hattie McDaniel, it's called The Queen of Sugar Hill. And a lot of people, people know her from winning the Oscar, but there's a big history behind her that a lot of people don't know about. So I've been living, breathing Hattie McDaniel for the last 2 years. So I'm really excited about that one.
So this is going to be a biography, or is it going to be a fiction story based on her?
It's a fiction story based on her. So it's
historical
called
fiction. So like The Personal Librarian, but just about Hattie McDaniel. In terms of, it's about a real person, but you have to fictionalize it for literary purposes. So, so what, do you already have that slated to come out, or is this you still working on it?
We don't have a release date yet. Hopefully I'll have one soon, but I'll definitely keep you posted.
Okay, yeah, that was something. I love historical fiction is my favorite, my all-time favorite genre. So, so I'm excited. Okay, so now I think we're done with our discussion. And so now we're at the part of the kickback where we give away our 3 autographed copies of Miss Pearly's Girls. And we do this with questions that are questions that only people who read the book will be able to answer. These are trivia that you can't Google because you have to know the storyline. So you ready? Y'all ready? And Rhonda, you watch the chat and the watch everything to see who answers first. So the first one is, which sister? Oh, and if you know the answer, if you're on screen, you still need to do it in the chat. Don't just shout it out. So yeah, if you're on screen, so the people who are watching, you all can win too, and you all do it in the comments. All right, first question, which sister had a neighbor named Mrs. Miriam? So the first person to get the answer to that wins the autographed copy of the book.
Kay answered it, Stella.
Okay, that's correct. So okay, you get
being all fast.
Okay, you get the first one. Okay, the next one. Here's the next question. Now this one, everybody should know, but because we've discussed it. But I had already pre-written the questions. So which sister had a husband named Walter? But you have to type it. You can't say it. Okay, Stephanie got it first. So I think Stephanie was on the chat.
He got it.
Who? Stephanie?
Yes, Maxine.
Yes, Maxine. It was Maxine.
Yep,
okay. Yeah, it was Maxine that had the husband named Walter. Mama Tony said Leslie had a wife named Nona. So that wasn't the answer. Okay, here's the last one. This one's more difficult and nobody may get it because it's somewhat obscure, but we'll see. You all can answer it even after the show's over. Whoever, if you have to go like look in your book, because this one's a little bit obscure. Okay, what was the name of Star and Stellar's 4th grade teacher?
Wow.
So we'll probably have to wait till after the show and y'all can go back and look at your books and reference it and figure it out from that. Because it's not, I think she's only mentioned once, but there is a narrative about her. So I won't give an answer. Because I wanted to make sure people had to read. These autographed copies are a prize. And I want to make sure people have read the book to get the autographed book. Well, we're at the end of our kickback and we want to thank all the book clubs for participating. And thank you, of course, to Reshonda for being willing to spend her time with us this evening and discuss her book. And we're so excited that your career is continuing to grow by leaps and bounds and you just continuing to write and do all kinds of stuff. So congratulations. And she's a newlywed on top of that. I don't know if you all got to see her wedding pictures, but
Congratulations.
if you haven't,
Thank
you
you
can
so
go on her
much.
page if she still posted them. You can go and look.
Yes.
Yes. She had some of her fellow author sisters in her wedding, which was
I
really
did.
nice. So congratulations. And you look like you had a really nice honeymoon. You went to an
I
exotic.
did.
Would you go to the Bahamas or it was somewhere like that?
Puerto Rico.
Puerto
We had
Rico,
a
okay.
great time.
Okay, well, wonderful.
All right.
Okay, well, that's the end. Our next book club kickback will be with Mary Monroe with her new book. The date I don't have in front of me. It'll be in May though. It'll be in May. And we're ending our show a little bit early, which is fine. I wanted to.
Real quick, I think Lydia got the answer.
Who?
Was the teacher's name Laborg?
No, that wasn't the name.
Okay, sorry, Lydia.
That's not it. That was the name of somebody, but that's not the name of the 5th grade teacher, 4th grade teacher. So our show next week, we have a really great lineup. We have Lanayla K or Lanayla Kai. I always can't figure out.
Elena Kai.
Elena Kai. Okay, she's going to be on as our first guest. Our second guest is Stephanie Jackson. She's a motivational author. Our third guest is Stephen Barnes. He's a best-selling sci-fi and suspense novelist. And then Nana Ekua Brew Hammond. She writes children's books, and she has a new children's book called Blue that just came out. So she's going to be our guest for next week. And for our Black Authors Matter TV Awards, you all continue to vote. And we'll be closing out the votes on the 31st for that. So thank everybody so much for tuning in. This is the end of Black Authors Matter TV for this week.
And if you're wondering where to find Reshonda's books, I did put 2 of her links in the chat. You can find it at her website, or you can go to Amazon. And both of the links are in the chat.
And they're everywhere. Her books are everywhere. She has great distribution. That's one benefit, real benefit of being with a big publisher. Reshonda, your mic is off. Were you talking to us? Oh, you're talking to somebody else. Okay.
I was just saying thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you so much again, everybody. Thanks for participating. We'll see you on next week's show. And I'm excited about the things we have coming up, and I appreciate the book clubs for tuning in, reading, and just participating. It's always fun to share about books. So Rhonda, do you have any closing words?
Well, first of all, thank you to everybody who joined us for the book club kickback. It's always great seeing book clubs because you guys are basically the lifeblood for authors. Your support is truly needed. And I want to thank you all for being on the show and showing your support to Reshonda And thank you to everybody who continues to support this show. As for me, I just, and for those of you who may have missed the announcement, the anthology, A New Renaissance, a celebration of African-American fiction is now in paperback. You can find it on Amazon. And my book Trust is also in paperback now, which is also on Amazon. So I look forward to you guys supporting the book and letting me know what you think of it, because both of them are truly, truly good products. Great stories in both of those books. Mama Tony got it. She said Mrs. Glover is the teacher.
That is correct. Mama Tony got the last book. Okay, so let me write this down, because the last time I had the wrong person that went in a book, and somebody got a book that wasn't supposed to. So, okay, the first one went to Kay. The second one was who was the second one? Stephanie. Okay, Stephanie Byrne. Okay, and then Mama Tony's the last. Okay. All right.
Thanks everybody once again for joining us. You guys have a wonderful night. Have a blessed week, and we will see you next week.
Good night from Black Authors Matter TV.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.